Welcome to the Leaders Code in partnership with IBM, a special series that will span across moneycontrol.com, CNBC TV 18, and Forbes India. Now, navigating through a crisis is the ultimate leadership test. The unpredictability of its scale and magnitude can bring an immense challenge to any leader. So, not only do they have to ensure the safety of their employees and workplace and business continuity, they also have to meet the complex and ever changing demands of customers and also their stakeholders. A leader's response rests on agile decision making, there's no doubt about that, and also valuable guidance that he or she receives. And every individual, of course, has their own unique code and style and strategy, which they use to lead their companies, especially in this past year of crisis. In this series, we'll meet the top leaders from India's top corporates, top banks. In this one, the country's largest bank, the State Bank of India, and uncover their leadership code. So without any ado, let me invite from State Bank of India, Ashwini Tiwari, the Managing Director, International Banking Technology and Subsidiaries, Anup Mahapatra, the DMD and CIO, Ravindra Pandey, DMD Strategy and Chief Digital Officer, Amol Pai, the Chief Technology Officer, Sunita Handa, CGM of Channels, and of course, Lula Mohanty, the General Manager at IBM, also stays with us. Mr. Tiwari, let me begin by asking you, as the leader of State Bank of India, how did you respond to this crisis and how did you cope with the daunting pressures to ensure that business continuity is maintained and employees are kept motivated?
Thank you, Ritu, for your initiative, and thank you, Lula, for organizing this. State Bank of India has always been the leader, and that's something we take very, very seriously, and our responsibility is something we always are cognizant of. So therefore, before I say anything about how we manage to serve the customers through our partners, etc., I have to again salute all our employees who really rose to the occasion. And our branches were hardly ever closed. So maybe some strange stances driven by the pandemic, but mostly they stayed open all through this challenging times. And therefore, any amount of compliment it will be less. They're as much a frontline workers as any other category which we might think of. So therefore, our biggest challenge was to not only keep the employees safe and motivated, but also how do we enable our branches, our ATMs, our customer service points, all of these to be up and running. Besides, the other challenge was that the digital channels, and we have the workhorse internet banking, which is serving more than 7 crore customers. We have the YONO, which had just been launched some time back, and which has also gained traction. So suddenly we found that these channels also had a lot of digital traffic, not to mention UPI, which everybody knows has just exploded to more than 2 billion transactions per month, as we know. And we get a significant amount of that traffic because we are the leading bank with the leading number of accounts. So we had on the one side, keeping the branches open, keeping the staff safe, allowing them to come, keeping the ATMs running, the cash input, and also the digital transactions just shot up. So how do we manage the infra, and many of these channels were not designed to actually have a 5x kind of increase in a short span of time. So these were the challenges we faced. However, as I mentioned, that our staff really rose to the occasion. Our IT team actually very, very quickly not only designed, because we had not had the work from home or anywhere policy earlier. So we created a policy, we installed the systems, enabled the VPNs to be installed on laptops, which were then given to the key people. All of this was done even while the movement itself was restricted in most places. So you could imagine the kind of difficulty that people face going house to house or office to office and enabling all of this. So this was all done parallelly and within a very short time. At no point our branches or any other office was non-functional, but people were enabled, and especially starting from the IT team itself. Because even if we have only 20,000, 22,000 branches, if one or two branches remain closed, we can still function from others. But what if the IT team or the IT center itself doesn't function? So we have a DR center, but then DR center needs people as well. So our challenge was first to enable the entire IT team to be functional even from home. And that is what we accomplished first. And this work from anywhere policy was first applied to IT, and then of course it was taken to other key departments. You would remember that in May or April, this is the closing time, the annual closing, we finalize our financial statements. So therefore, that was also a time when our key people in that department were required to be available actually. and they really can't work on emails, but they have to have all the balance sheets and all which they work on. Therefore, they need their office systems. So we had this work from home or work from anywhere where they were also enabled, and then following that, many other offices which were critical to this whole place. So therefore, that was one key, that how do we keep all of this running? The business continuity was tested like anything, and this scale probably has never been tested. So we were able to do that, come out successfully on that. And of course, our digital channels really supported us. As I mentioned, that whatever we have used in YONO, INV, all of that really came through. And we had some very innovative products which we launched in this time. I would mention just a couple. One is YONO Cash. So there was initially, quite a lot of reluctance on touching surfaces. So YONO Cash was one such product which was brought in part of YONO, where you could actually withdraw from the ATM without actually punching anything into the ATM. So therefore, it was a really unique kind of product where you could use this YONO Cash and do this QR-based ATM withdrawals also were launched. So many of these innovative things were done. So I think I'll stop here because there were many other things which happened. For example, this entire moratorium piece is a story by itself. And the Supreme Court came out in 23rd March to say that now you can classify. So classifying millions of accounts again back to what they should be. Again, a lot of effort went into it, but we have come out successfully on that.
And all of it had to be done before the close of the March quarter. So kudos to you, and really for the banking system in this country to ensure that we are able to stay home and go on with our daily businesses. It's thanks to people like you keeping the business running. So let me quickly move on to Mr. Ravindra Pandey as well. How did priorities for you as State Bank of India change because of the pandemic, and what were some of the learnings that you gathered in this past year? I'm sure your insights will be valuable to all.
Earlier also, before the pandemic started, the customer were using their digital avenues for researching their priorities, their purchases, their shoppings. Shopping includes also, for the financial products also. Now, as of now, due to the pandemic, 80% of the researches are now being done digitally. Once it is done digitally, we need to have a platform, we need to build an ecosystem whereby we are there at the point of first contact. And the second priority which we need to change, and we are changing also, is probably the majority of the business disruption is not on account of the process improvement, is primarily tech-led. Small startup like your Laminate can onboard an insurance within 90 seconds. That's all they claim, and that is what they are doing. Third is now, more or less the platforms, they have to more as a service, platform as a service instead of having as a process provider. And most important among all, the pandemic which has changed the business priorities is risk. The more the number of the digital transaction, the more need and agility we require to have the risk, to contain the risk, to mitigate the risk. And third, and another important is how to communicate with the customers, both my own employees and to the outside world. So these are the three business priorities which, because of this pandemic has accelerated. They were earlier, but it simply acts as an accelerator. One thing more is this, pandemic has put into sharper focus is you can't dissect a technology with business processes. Now they are totally gelled, intertwined amongst each other. So and then agility at a scale. The day which was off thing, in thing yesterday, may be an off thing today. That's the agility we need to bring in. We need to brought into our system. And third, needless to say, is the excellence in technology infrastructure, both in terms of robustness, in terms of resilience, and in terms of ability to interact. I think these are the primary learnings we got from this pandemic. See, we give an example here just to illustrate a point. When this last year, when this entire country was in a lockdown, our KCC Kisan credit card renewals were due. And the customer needs some money because every renewal entails certain percentage. Now we launched Krishi, review, agriculture cash credit review through YONO. we started focusing on the agri piece to have ensure that our agriculture cash credit card customers are able to review their account. They can draw and slightly higher Geo limit than they want.
Yeah.
And it was a success. Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing your thoughts. Mr. Mahapatra, let me come to you then. He mentioned the Kisan credit card on the YONO app and the initiatives through that which were successful. Let me ask you overall of all the leadership strategies that you would have deployed, and these would have been new because it is an unprecedented crisis. Which ones really proved successful and which ones not so much?
Yeah. So basically, as you know, there are numerous incidents in the past where multiple crisis events have already happened. And SBI is a great crisis manager. So this is also one of the unprecedented crises, which was unanticipated, and we have also risen into the occasion. If the crisis is going to prolong, what are the measures that we are going to take so that we'll continuously continue our momentum without any break? And the last one is that bank of this size, which has already invested heavily in the previous years on various technological assets, why can't we ensure that the change momentum also continues during this post of time, so that the first mover advantage will always remain with us? With these multi-pronged strategies, we have worked in all these directions simultaneously. As MD has rightly pointed out, we didn't have a work from home policy. So within just 1 month, we had to prepare the work from home policy. We put the VPN connections, created the war rooms, created the offsite offices, and our communication network with the last mile staff also was so robust that we didn't allow any miscommunication. As a result, the COVID protocols also was being thoroughly enforced, and we are, as disciplined workers, continuously in liaison with the government establishment, municipalities, police authorities, ensured that all our vendor staff, our staff also work seamlessly. And the most important one is that when we come to the bank, that the 22,000 plus branches and offices to continue. So we have identified which are the critical operations. And for those critical operations, we have also created multiple critical teams. And anticipating the quarantines, so we have bifurcated these critical teams into multiple office premises. So that was major initiative which we have taken. We have ensured their well-being, the continuous motivational messages to the family members also. We have ensured so that there should be lesser fear psychosis, which was prominent at that particular point of time. So we have had multiple strategies so that the running the bank is concerned also. Coming to the strategies that what are the things that are going to come if the crisis prolongs. There also we have evaluated, brainstormed through Microsoft Teams at that particular point of time, which was not extensively used. I'll just give a number. We had right now had got more than 4 lakh team meetings. So it's unprecedented also. And through these team meetings, all our leadership position, even grassroots employees also being hooked. As a result, whosoever is sitting at the home also, they're connected to each other. And we could take decisions at the fastest possible time. That speaks of the agility in which we have already taken the decisions.
Did I hear that right? 4 lakh meetings in the last 365?
Absolutely. 4 lakh plus.
Okay.
That is what is the number of meetings across the bank. So that is what the agility that was, and that has given us the kind of traction so that we could meet all those challenges very smoothly. The fourth one is that this is an opportunity. We didn't consider this as a crisis moment. We consider this a great opportunity because having invested so heavily in the technology in the last 5-6 years in all the areas of the banking, why can't we encash these opportunities? As Mr. Pandey has rightly pointed out, the digital ecosystem has been made so robust. We have got a very strong CRM platform. We have got a strong YONO platform. Our INB is a flagship project. And in the AIML sphere, we are also the pioneers. Through the EMM route, where it is available, the staff sitting at the homes, they are getting all the kinds of functionalities sitting at the home, even at the branch level also.
No, absolutely. Let me quickly bring in Sunita also on that point as well, because digital clearly is the way that the bank is able to function and provide all of these services over the last 1 year when all of us were locked down at home, social distancing practice. What were some of the threat inventions that you looked at, and how did you align the business strategy to go more digital?
Thank you, Ritu.
Yeah.
Technology has been at the center of corporate strategy and business strategy. And during pandemic, the role of technology and the tech leaders, it became even more pivotal. See, ask from business was very simple. They said that now our customers at this stage, they are more ready than ever to embrace technology rather than going to a physical channel or going to a branch and transacting. So can we bring each segment of customers at least one notch up in tech channel adoption? Now, this had to be done in two ways. A, by quickly launching some of the innovative pandemic special products and services that ensured social distancing and minimum physical touch, etc. And B, by reimagining some of the customer journeys that we already had, and they had to be reimagined in the in the context of the present times. So I can say with deep satisfaction that SBI's technology teams delivered on both accounts. See, on the innovation front, let me give a couple of examples. See, for years, our branches have been providing something, a service called life certificate service to SBI pensioners. So what it means is that during a particular month, once in a year, the pensioner has to present himself to the branch manager. He walks to the branch and presents himself. And then after due identification, our branch manager signs a paper-based certificate saying that he has met the pensioner. And after this identification, etc., I certify that he is alive and his pension payment should continue. So now during pandemic times, the pensioner, and they are the more vulnerable lots, a pensioner going up to the branch and meeting branch manager and others, now that had to be avoided. So within days, we developed a product. It was an app-based video interaction, where in the video, this our pensioner, SBI pensioner, he answers some of the questions relating to his profile in the bank. So then the video which he records, there the pics are taken, shots are taken, and they are matched with the his picture on the bank's record. And the questions that he answers, they are matched with our HR database. So then with that, within 3 minutes on both the sides, this kind of life certificate was approved, and thousands of our pensioners, they have availed of this service.
Sure.
And without visiting the branch, just spending a couple of minutes on the app, he has been able to do that. So this kind of, we had many examples, many innovations in our products. Earlier, MD sir mentioned about QR code based cash withdrawal. There you just go to the ATM and there will be a QR code displayed. Just scan it on your mobile, and then the cash will be there for you. So that kind of things. And then on the international front, we have this YONO Global app. It was there in UK and it was very popular. That was its footprint was expanded to 6 other countries. So there, some of these countries, like we have it in Canada, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, then Maldives, Mauritius. So in fact, 2 of these countries, they for them, for the customer, it's a first of its kind, the kind of app they saw.
Yeah. Amol, before I come to you, let me quickly hand it over to Mr. Ashwini Tiwari as well, because for all of these technological, things to work for customers to be able to, be serviced digitally, Mr. Tiwari, please spill your beans. I mean, what were some of the investments that you made in tech, and have they proved their worth?
Yeah, so we are already a digital bank and we continue on that journey. So it isn't that because the pandemic came and therefore we start to make all these investments. This was a journey we were already undertaking. Only thing which happened due to the pandemic was that the traffic increased suddenly on these digital channels. And therefore we needed to make some additional investments on the infra side, not on the strategy per se. So therefore, that is what we have done and we continue to do. In terms of the strategy itself, the digital strategy, we are already upgrading the network operating centers. We are bringing them in-house. We are already embarked upon the microservices-based architecture, the enterprise service bus. We are upgrading the trade finance solution. The cloud, we have a private cloud. We are upgrading that as well. So all of this was actually planned and was already getting executed to some extent even before the pandemic hit. So there's nothing like we have suddenly started something. Of course, the VPN-based availability of work from anywhere is something we did directly in response to the pandemic, which is not something we had planned immediately. But that also enabled us to test our business continuity in a scaled up manner, which we probably would not have tried. In addition, also that the CBS itself, which is our workhorse, the core banking, that also we have major revamp of that is underway, so that we take out some pieces from CBS, make it more agile, and build applications around it. So all of this has been happening parallelly and even before the pandemic hit us. The final piece is UPI. As I mentioned, the scale up of UPI transactions. So we are in the process of upgrading our systems and infra to be able to take care of that and build in redundancies. So now we no longer talk about 1x or 2x. We have seen this go up by 5x. So we need to plan for 10x. So that's the kind of scale up we are doing for infra, for all these transaction channels on digital. And hopefully all of this will help us continue to serve our customers well.
Well, Mr. Tiwari, I know we've been speaking about leadership and broader trends at SBI, but while you're focused on taking care of your company and of course of your employees and primarily your customers, some of your individual issues I'm sure would have to be put aside while you're tackling all of these measures at the same time. How did you personally deal with the situation that came out of nowhere in this past 1 year?
Yeah, so that is one question we normally do not get asked or do not answer easily in any kind of an interview.
Make you answer for all of us.
No. When this hit, so I was in New York City at that time, and there, both my daughters, actually, the one daughter was working, the other was on a holiday, visiting New York from Hong Kong, and then she was stuck because first China and Hong Kong closed, and by the time she could make her plans, the university itself closed and they shifted online. So, very interestingly, she had opted for a late afternoon session by Hong Kong time because she didn't want to get up early. And it so happened that because the 12-hour time difference between Hong Kong and New York, she ended up starting her classes at 1 o'clock or 12 o'clock in the night and going through the night. So these are like some asides. However, on the personal front, I was supposed to move back to India early, but because of the pandemic and because of flights not being there, so I had to shift my program. And ultimately, I could come only in July. But it didn't inconvenience in any significant manner. And all this while, New York, actually, we had a lot of problems because New York was the first hit and hit majorly. So to take care of the staff, and many of them fell sick also, we had to be really, really up and center and continue to the operations. So all our thoughts of family is, frankly speaking, we don't really think about that all the time. So it's like, as long as they are safe, we just close our mind and just try to focus on the work as it stands. So that's how it has been.
Well, absolutely. I completely agree, and I'm sure so does everybody else. As long as everybody near and dear to you at least is healthy, you can focus on work, because if that part is not taken care of, it'll get doubly hard. But Amol, thank you for being so patient with us. Let me come to you then. You're like I said, more than 100-year-old bank. You're seen as that traditional brick and mortar State Bank of India, the reliable large bank that India has had for a long time. What kind of complications did that image bring? Addressing this kind of a crisis where people think they can't come out and bank, they have to be at home and still be able to safely, carry on with the activities. What kind of complexities did you have to mitigate to reduce the impact on business performance using technology?
So banking was considered as essential service. So essential service means it had to be available throughout the period of the pandemic. And for banking to run, obviously, as was communicated earlier also, banking runs on technology, and technology had to be up and running at all points in time. So our focus at that point in time was more on ensuring that our banking services are available both online as well as in the offline mode. Because as Mr. Tiwari had mentioned earlier, that our branches were hardly closed. We were still serving customers at our branches. So keeping the online and the offline parameter, the services on, was pretty much important for us. So a few complexities I can quickly chalk out. So first thing that we necessarily had to do was we had to ensure that IT was up and running at any given point in time. We had to ensure that people manning IT were always available and reachable, and they were able to function well. So we isolated teams in such a manner that they don't communicate with each other, they don't stay in touch with each other. One team is able to take up work from the second team. So that we cross the year-end activity, we also ensure that the key project of setting up the work from anywhere infrastructure is done in a very timely manner. That was the first thing that we did. The second thing was that the entire supply lines were disrupted. I mean, getting a PC was a challenging aspect because all the major suppliers would simply say that, you know what, I have stock, but it is lying there in my warehouse in Chennai. Now don't ask me how can you get it to Bombay. So we had to tap into a lot of our local providers, asking them whether they have got spare laptops. Once we get the laptop, we look at the condition of the laptop, we then format it, we harden it so that it is up to the mark. And then the last mile delivery of giving it to the person who's sitting there at home, because asking people to travel unnecessarily was unwarranted. So this was the second challenge that we had to go past with. The third challenge was that we were always working in within the office. So my security perimeter, if I have to put it in a different way, was the four walls of my office. Whatever I do it within that particular premise. Now with working from anywhere, that perimeter was gone. It could be anywhere. The person could be sitting anywhere. So we had to put up policies which says that you as a person, what is the system you can access, at what time you can access, where you can access. You should be aware of the fact that there should be no shoulder surfing. You cannot sit in a cafe and do what you want. So all these processes had to be laid down. So it was not just technology. We had to ensure that the perimeter, which now no longer existed, was secure no matter where it was. Okay. Yeah. And then comes the last part. That is, I rely on all my telecom providers to provide connectivity to all my branches. So 24,000. Yeah. Yes, so 24,000 branches, 48,000 connections, and there are lockdowns and quarantines everywhere. So if a network gets cut, then we had to really use our contacts and our offices to ensure that it gets reconnected as fast as possible. But one thing which was a positive side effect of the pandemic was that all construction activity had stopped. So I can tell you for the number of cable cuts which would happen in the month of March till April, because that's when you do a lot of construction activity, it was almost down to zero. So in a way, the pandemic helped us on that part. Okay. So these are the typical challenges that we had to go through.
Okay, sounds like an easy job. But Luca, let me ask you, clearly tech has played a huge role, and a lot of tech transformation that banks had lagged in the past happened during the course of this pandemic, because, you know, to some extent they were also forced to do this. But do you see this as a lasting effect? Will it change business models in future? How are you working with your clients, and what is their outlook on this?
I think the pandemic has best served as an acceleration to the digital frontiers, right? I mean, the banking industry was already at the forefront of digital acceleration. I think the pandemic has brought a few initiatives more into the focus than not. So as we work through the banks in the patch, I think a couple of things may have changed for the better, right? So number one was a more enterprise-wide adoption of technologies such as data and AI, right? I mean, I would say for the large part, data and AI were probably in the experimentation stage in many cases. Now they have been more pervasively embedded because it is now a business strategy, right? I mean, whether it is a customer outreach we are talking about, right? You know, we already heard all of the executives in this panel talk about technology being a differentiation. It almost became an essential thing, right? I mean, both, you know, as during the lockout, etc. So I think the adoption of technology becoming core and central to a bank functions is now more widely recognized across multiple formats. I think that's one. Second, Ritu, is what Mr. Tiwari referred to earlier, right? And also Mr. Pandey, which is security is now front and central, because as banking gets more and more digital, I think cyber security is table stakes now, right? I mean, it is like a foundation layer that you can build on. So I think we are going to see more and more investments, more and more conversations around security being a differentiation measure from a customer's lens. Can they trust your banker, right? I mean, digital products is great, digital reach is great, but nothing at the cost of compromising anything that is confidential. So I think that's the second one. Third, you know, and I'm not going into the cliched territories of, yes, of course, a lot of more channel innovation, etc. But I think banks will start to measure themselves on digital KPIs, right? I mean, you now a digital company more than anything else. And when I talk about digital KPI measurements, it is like, it's not about digitizing the front end. It's actually now what is going to be, I mean, how are you digitizing the entire value chain? So we're talking about intelligent workflows. We're talking about low touch or no touch or zero touch, whatever you call it, right? How efficient, what is the degree of automation, right? I think that's number one. Second, we are going to talk about turnaround times, time to market for applications, right? Things that a digital company is measured by. Third, how are you linking leadership incentives to the extent of digitization? What is the ratio of spend budgets on technology versus not? I think so. There's going to be a lot of that that's going to happen as well. Your measurements, your efficacy of performance is going to change towards more and more digital. Last and not the least, Ritu, I think it's going to be business model innovations at large. Your ability to traverse different industries and play in ecosystems. Your ability to build businesses at scale. It goes back to the point that Mr. Mahapatra was making, and also Mr. Pai in his comments. Resiliency. How scalable, how flexible, how digital is your underpinning architecture? See, up until, and I mean, I would like to end with this, and this is something that we observe personally, right? Pre-pandemic, the focus was more on make digital visible. It was front-end transformation. It was how many more products. I think during the pandemic, digital has become an existential conversation. So it's not just good enough transforming at the front end. It is how scalable, how resilient, how secure, right? How automated, how agile. All these questions are being asked, and it's kind of an inversion of business model.
Well, those are some excellent points, actually, Lula. Thanks so much for bringing those out. Mr. Pandey, let me toss these to you. I know you spoke about the UPI growth and what YONO has been doing, of course, but how are you handling some of these issues of cybersecurity, scaling, using technology and transformation, being more agile? How has strategy really changed at SBI? If you could address some of those points.
Yeah, sure, Ritu. I will just pinpoint 4 and 5 pointers or the vectors which we are focusing on. The first and foremost is how I can digitize my workforce. By digitizing workforce means how can I make a digital literacy to the entire breadth of the workforce. Second is end-to-end digitization of the processes which we have within the bank, identifying them, making them end-to-end digitization. Third is a life cycle ecosystem. We have initially started building a life cycle ecosystem. How can I build a customer life cycle ecosystem? Now the customer does not want to have a product. A customer is not going to a bank for a financial product. The financial product would become a byproduct of his life cycle management. How can I build an ecosystem, home loan ecosystem, car loan ecosystem, where from end to end, say, for example, in a home loan ecosystem, from the home searches till selling of the house, renting of an house, it's furnishing of an house, paint of an house, plumber. How can I create this ecosystem? The central, the fulcrum continue to remain a loan product, an asset product. But the hooks are all this. This is one. This is just give an example. But this ecosystem needs, if you see around, everybody, all the tech companies, all the tech fins or fintechs, whatever I call them, tech fins. So all the tech fins, they are building that ecosystem. This is one. Third is how can I use more and more partnership oriented? Now the era of Ekla Chalola has gone. I will run alone. No. How can I create a partnership ecosystem where both the partners drive value from each other? And most important, how can I make analytical models? How can I use analytical models? And how agile I make my analytical models? In the today's pandemic, Analytical model cannot only have the past behavioral data, because then you are gone. It has to have a, that prism also of the future built into that. I think these are fundamental business architecture changes which we are trying to build for a digital resilience in my banking system. As far as the UPI you have told, in UPI we are already the market leader. Around 27% of market share is there, and month on month we are growing on a average growth rate of around 10 to 15%. Now we wanted to go beyond in UPI. How can I capture the merchant ecosystem in UPI? Through my QR codes, how can I, and then once you create a market ecosystem, how can I enter into the life cycle of merchant? We did 1 and 2 examples. One of the large, FMCG, we integrated with their app through UPI, whereby I'm not able to have this FMCG in collection also. I'm also helping its merchant for a small ticket on the fly loan, on the fly asset product. So this is how example of a partnership, example of an capturing into an ecosystem. So these are the overall archaic. If today you cannot differentiate between a tech and a business processes. It's now I think that's a very, very old way of thinking. Now it has to be agile. I mean, the boundary line, the line between a technology and a business process is totally merged. So that is why for a banker, for me, the major challenge as a digital, as a CDT of the bank is, how can I make us continue to be relevant in the life cycle of a customer, not for an asset or a liability product of a customer.
Well, let me toss to Mr. Mahapatra on that point then. Mr. Pandey has outlined what the bank is trying to do. How are you helping him do these things? I mean, how are you, leveraging data and analytics to drive some of these innovations, Mr. Mahapatra?
Yeah, this is basically a very favorite and pet topic to me, driving the entire piece of analytics in the State Bank of India for last few years. And we are also being the pioneer in the BFSI sector in the area of analytics. From the day when it was not having a single AI model, today we have got 45 plus machine learning models covering almost all the areas of the banking, be it the customer segmentation, profiling, business development, the loan products, the early warning symptom in the stress assets, or the risk and fraud areas, the income leakage, whatever you speak of, there is a model to that. And all these models are very value creative. So what Mr. Pandey has rightly pointed out is that all these models have developed on our own ecosystem databases. So going forward, to make those models more agile, it requires an external database, particularly the unstructured database, which is available in the ecosystem. That is where the partnership is going to come, so that the model efficacy is also going to be more robust. So all these models, when I say that all these models are very, very value creative, how that has been possible? That has been possible because we have got our own in-house talent, which are having basically a talent source of almost 50 people, which are laterally recruited data scientists. So this is what I want to make it very clear, that just like unlike any other industry or any other people who are working on AI, ML, also SBI is also having a very strong, powerful in-house data scientists, which are having tremendous capability and caliber. So what we are already into this data science capabilities. So we are already into this data science capability in the sense that from the day when we have started with a simple regression analysis, we have gone to the stage of deep learning, natural language processing, the ensemble, unsupervised machine learning or supervisory machine learning, whatnot we have gone through all the stages. So today, what are the unknown territories that we are going to enter? We have got a very 3 years roadmap, which has been already established, board approved roadmap. So the new territories that we are entering in, adaptive ML, explainable AI. So what are the enablers for that? We have got a data warehouse, which facilitates on all this holistic data compilation. But over and above, we are adding a data lake also, which will give us that agility to really look into the unstructured data and the virtualization layers to really look into the real-time data sources. So with the fintech partnership, if at all that they are there, who can provide us those type of database, obviously tomorrow it will be a much better agility so far as the AI/ML is concerned. So far the data is concerned, we have got also again the powerful data governance architecture. So a lot of initiatives we have taken in the area of data governance to ensure that the data quality issues, a bank of this size where we are having this problem of data quality, so we are addressing this holistically. The framework is so well laid down, starting from the chairman and leading from the front, right up to the branch level. This data governance architecture is well laid down. Multiple initiatives, multiple newer concepts have been established in this area. So we are already into this, but the challenge right now is, as your question, the previous question was that what are the security environments? That is the biggest challenge that is coming in the digital ecosystem. That is one of the concern areas also in today's scenario, even the startups, fintechs also. The security ecosystem is also extremely open. And if you look into the API's last few days announcement, that then the cyber attack has increased by more than 300% in this pandemic area. And that is the reality also. Even in our ecosystem also, we are seeing that huge amount of attacks which are coming to our ecosystem. But how are we preventing all this ecosystem? We are preventing, we have got a robust multi-layer security architecture. The best tools globally available. We are implementing all these tools across each of the layers. But ultimately, it is the customer which is getting impacted. The phishing attacks. The targeted phishing attack. Yeah. So that is what we are having. A lot of SMS awareness messages going to. Lot of campaigns also we are making for our employees. VPN connections, which has enhanced the perimeter security also. We are putting it through a lot of campaigns also. So we are trying all our best to ensure the robustness in the security architecture. So
I'm sure, but in the words of one of your past chairman, Arundhati Bhattacharya, I remember she said this time and again, we try to do all that we can, but we're only as strong as the weakest link in the chain, and that is the customer. So education, of course, is key. But Lula, let me come to you to take a step back, because you have a bird's eye view. You're working across banks. What has been your sense? How do you see SBI as an innovation leader, given all of the incentives and some of the steps that SBI has taken over the past year that the management has now detailed?
Well, Ritu, I may have a bias for SBI, but I would just say it the way I see this, right? I think to call it a partnership would be a bit unfair. I mean, it's 2 decades of relationship with SBI, probably as much as I've been married. Yeah. But, and first of all, a little bit into SBI as a technology leader, right? I mean, they have always been at the forefront of technology, starting with, from the whole core banking program, for example, and then, going on to data and analytics, which Anup has mentioned just now. It's probably their 2nd generation of data and AI tactics that SBI has gone on to. And then in the past decade or so, our opportunity to work together on YONO as a platform, and the various other channels that they have gotten, right? I mean, UPI, internet banking, etc. So I think they've always been at the forefront of technology, and they have been trailblazers in many formats, more than one. I wanted to pick on a couple of things, right, Ritu? The culture of innovation, having been associated with a lot of banking transformations in this region personally. I have been truly impressed with 3 things that stand out for me, right, when it comes to the State Bank of India. First and foremost, the tone at the top, which is almost obsessed with innovation, right, and the enterprise scale of innovation, right, behind the vision. I'm just reminded of Jim Collins said famously, right, I mean, good is the enemy of great. And I have seen that play out in the multiple, in hundreds of meetings that I've been with the leadership team of State Bank of India in their boardroom, where, even if you have the best technology today, it was never good enough. It was always challenging complacency and the leadership's constant quest to outdo what is good today. Truly, it is something that had initially, surprised me a lot, and then I got used to the rhythm. The amount of time and energy that the leadership spends on digital initiatives, right, on the innovation front, really, to me, sets the pace for the rest of the organization. That's the first thing, the tone at the top, and following it through action. The second is the rigor in execution and planning. Here Mr. Mahapatra talked about data and analytics. There is just so much of enterprise-wide planning behind this, right? When we were getting into and things like that, it's like different functions of the bank came together. There was security, there was IT, there was business, and this whole co-creation, there's almost a lot of 70% of the design is ready, right, before the team starts to execute, because to me, that is responsible transformation, right? I mean, as a State Bank of India, you are custodians of enormous trust, from the country in mass. And I think the amount of planning and execution is outstanding. The third is really the focus on driving outcomes, right? I mean, it's very, very outcome centered, etc. So to me, these are critical success factors, Ritu. I mean, I've been involved in a lot more banking transformations in the country. The work we do with the famous banks in ASEAN, in Singapore, in Thailand, in Philippines, Australia, Korea, I think this really stands out. And the last one I would leave with, from my perspective, I think the partnership has seen through an evolution. As much as we have all learned technology, learned to experiment and learned to drive at scale, I think it's also the evolution of trust. It is extremely important in critical transformations such as this to have the license to disagree, right? And I think with the bank, where we have evolved today with a lot of these partnerships, delivering projects, etc., is that today, we're working on a foundation of trust, and that speed of trust cuts through a lot of impasse in this. And I think to everyone else who would be listening in, I think digital transformations are never easy. And they are best accomplished when the conversation is built on a foundation of trust. So it's been a great journey, right, of making this transformation real and at scale, Ritu.
Well, thanks for that, Lula. Let me quickly get winding up comments from everyone then. Sunita, coming to you with the weight of everything, all the responsibility that Lula just mentioned on State Bank of India. Of course, financial growth is a priority, but what will be some of the key focus areas for the bank going ahead? Some of the trends that you could outline, I'm sure the listeners will benefit from hearing.
See, the new ABCD of BFSI now is A for artificial intelligence, B for blockchain, C for cloud computing, and D stands for data analytics. Now they are going to bring in phenomenal change in technologies and the landscape that is going to emerge in India. Now SBI aims to lead the way, and as always, and the focus areas you asked me, using these technologies, what are going to be the focus areas? So first I'll say, I think payments are going to see a lot of action in the coming days. See, while NUE, that new umbrella entity, that will bring in innovations and competition in this space, the regulatory initiatives like central bank digital currency, CBDC, they will change the way India makes payments. So this is going to be a big change in the next 3 years, and SBI is going to focus very intensively on this. The second thing is the digital lending. See, right now, digital lending, of course, end-to-end digital lending is there. Analytics and AI are being used to, for credit appraisal and for selection of borrowers. But then, it's more of an exception. I think in the coming 3 years, it is going to become a norm rather than exception. So that is going to be our focus areas, covering more and more SMEs, MSMEs, individuals, even the corporates under this digital lending. And the third very important thing is the focus area going to be digital for our corporates and the governments. The way governments are adopting digital, it's amazing, the speed and the kind of demands they are raising. So next 3 years are also going to keep us busy with the this API-based banking, providing our APIs to governments and large corporates or medium-sized corporates to have integrations with them so that they can have ERP-based integration. See, SBI has recently launched its API Hub and Sandbox for corporates. So our APIs are placed there, and corporates can test them out in the sandbox. They can visit, they can take them into production, and in a very, very short time they can be made live. So these kinds of innovations for government departments and large and medium corporates, they are going to be another focus areas where we are going to use these sophisticated new technologies. Another thing in corporate, I'll mention this thing, that sophisticated liquidity management. That also is on our radar. And of course, the collections, payments, and liquidity management forecasts, they are also going to be delivered in the next 1 year or so. So I think that answers your question.
Well, absolutely, Sunita. Let me, Amol, hand it to you for the final word on this. Putting all of this together, what are some of the key technologies that have helped drive resilience through this past year, which has been very tough? Any sort of advice that you would like to share with our listeners?
So what has helped us be resilient in 2020, I can tell you, will help us be resilient in the near future also. So I'll begin with the ABCDs, as Ms. Sunita had just mentioned. So very clearly, analytics. So analytics has been a driver for our resiliency, because the kind of sophisticated models that we developed using our in-house talent that helped us create better leads. It gave us better early warnings. The risk was assessed beforehand, which meant that we were very targeted and focused in terms of the activities that we were going to perform. And this will continue. I mean, what we did in 2020 stays with 21, 22 also. The second technology that helped us being resilient was our private cloud initiative that we had done. So Meghdoot, as we call it internally, that is one investment which we have been doing for the past few years, and we continue to invest in it because we scaled up Meghdoot or we have created Meghdoot in such a manner that it caters to our growing requirement, like the way UPI is growing or all the digital transactions are growing. We foresee Meghdoot taking up a bulk of that particular load going ahead also. So we are automating a lot of activities that are done in the cloud so as to mirror it as any public cloud offering that a company has to offer. And last but not the least, the main technology that brought in resilience for us last year was the remote working technology. So it was not just setting up of a VPN application per se, it was setting up of a VPN application with endpoint security, with remote monitoring policies. And we are just enhancing the policies and the security so that this can continue to be used on an ongoing basis now that we are in the second wave and nobody knows what's going to happen next. So this technology will be used as we keep going ahead. We learn from all the events that happened in the past 1 year and we keep fine-tuning it so that it is more secure and it is more resilient than ever.
Yeah.
So broadly, this sums it up.
Yeah, not just work from home, but work from anywhere. That's something I think Mr. Rajneesh Kumar introduced before he left the bank as chairman. Unfortunately, we have to wind up on that note. We're all out of time. Mr. Ashwini Tiwari, Mr. Anup Mahapatra, Ravindra Pandey, Amol Pai, Sunita Handa, and Lula Mohanty, all of you, thank you so much for taking time out and speaking with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ritu. Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks,
Lula.
Ritu. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great to see you all. Bye now.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
you.
Thank you.